Hello, every pony. This is Temperance Bones, the purple pony, and today I'll be reading Cheerilees Garden by Sunshine the Pony. This will be split into parts because it is very long, and it is a horror fiction, so there is going to be gore. So let's get started. The entire The entire theater complex was abuzz with the voice of a thunder. The entire theater complex was abuzz with the voices of 100 excited ponies as Cheerilee peeked out carefully from behind the curtain hiding the stage. She saw rows upon rows of ponies sitting in the stands or moving between them, talking to each other as they awaited or tried to make one last trip to get some food and beverage before the show. She glanced quickly to the left and saw that the musicians had already set up in the orchestra pit in front of the stage. They'd only be needed for a few scenes, but Cheerilee was still glad to have them. Seeing such a big crowd gathered there made her a bit nervous, even though this had been her idea. Almost all of the seats were taken, and Cheerilee knew there was barely enough to accommodate the entire population of Ponyville. The show would be subjected to the scrutiny of a great many pony eyes indeed. She retreated back behind the curtain, hoping no pony had seen her. She felt that that would have been somewhat unprofessional. Everything seemed to be in order as she inspected the stage for the last time. All the props and equipment were beautifully made, straight from the hooves of the masters. Cheerilee had only need to tell them what she wanted, and they had provided it without any questions, even though certain items must have seemed unnecessary. After all, they didn't know what she had in mind for this night. While she did, she was quite sure some of their props would make even a professional theater jealous. The stage was divided into sections, each denoting its supposed location. This way, there didn't need time or backstage ponies to change the decor after each act, cutting down on the time needed for scene changes. Cheerilee was a big fan of this system, as it meant there was one less thing for her to worry about. She turned back and headed for stage left, where her students were busy getting all dressed up. It was a total chaos, with bits and pieces of costumes scattered across the room like sprinkles on a cupcake. At the center of the mess were the Cutie Mark Crusaders, as Cheerilee had come to expect. The fact none of them had sprouted a troublemaking Cutie Mark yet surprised her more each day and every day. More each and every day. "Hey, that's my helmet!" Scootaloo told Sweetie Belle accusingly. "Yours is way over there." No, it sure isn't," she replied as she lifted the knight's helmet off of her head and held it out for Scootaloo to inspect. "This one has a hole in it for my horn, see?" "Are y'all sure it isn't my helmet?" Applebloom said as she scratched her head. "The king wears a crown," the other two snapped back. Cheerilee sighed as she quickly glanced at her other students. Silver Spoon and Diamond Tiara seemed to progress orderly, if slowly, mainly due to how they constantly flourished and admired each other after each article of clothing they put on, and after every single brush of their mane. Snips was, to her great surprise, ready and waiting. The fact that Snails was backstage on tech duty might have had something to do with that, she mustered. She remained confident they'd make it on time, as she had the great foresight to start them all early on preparations, much earlier than any pony would have thought necessary. She had come to know the little group throughout the months, and she had prepared for almost anything. Nothing could possibly go wrong today. She had put too much planning and work into it to see it fail now. She smiled as she envisioned the peace, quiet, tranquility, and relief she'd feel when this was all over. "All right, students," she chimed. "Let me just run you through the steps one last time." There was much groaning to be heard across the room, but Cheerilee wasn't taking any chances with this bunch. "If you still have a part to play but aren't needed on set, come back here. If your role is played out, exit the stage on the other side. You'll be able to watch the rest of the play from there. That is, if you didn't see it enough already." She paused for a moment to ascertain every pony was still listening, and they all nodded. "If you've forgotten your lines, just improvise or pick up from the point on the script that you recall. If the pony you're playing with skips some of their lines, don't try to correct them. Remember, we may notice if some pony doesn't follow the script, but the audience won't, as long as you keep the dialogue flowing." The fillies and Snips nodded again, and Cheerilee smiled at them. "Good. Now get ready. I have to see the opening of the show, so be ready on set in no more than 10 minutes. I wonder what Cheerilee's got planned. This is actually one of my favorites and one of the most popular, I guess. Okay, back to it. She walked away as the young ponies got back to it, and Cheerilee thought she seemed to quarrel the daylight slightly less this time, though that was probably just her imagination. The last one she had checked up on was Snails, who she put backstage due to the absolute inability to do even the most basic of acting. All he'd have to do there was listen for certain cues and then carry out the specific action. She had even written all of that down on a list that was easy enough to follow even for him. Up to this point, he'd done okay during their practice, but you never know. Okay, we're about 10 minutes, so I'm going to take a break, and you guys get to part 2.